Hello everybody, welcome back to the Laughing Skull podcast. We're going to be talking about my favorite of the creepypastas today, and that is none other than Slender Man himself. Slender Man's a very interesting concept because I actually really believed it was real for the longest time. I didn't seem to really realize it wasn't just a joke on the internet because, back in the day I didn't really get to use, computers very often or whatever, so yeah. And I kept seeing his images popping up everywhere, and I was like, what in the hell is this? So, me being a very dumb, 19, 20-year-old, I just kind of believed it. Internet wasn't really as popular as it is now. Everyone has it on their, fingertips. Everyone just carries around like a little mini computer in your pocket at all times. So, 10 years ago, 13 years ago, however long it was, whenever 2009 was, it was kind of an off-putting thing. So whenever I was reading up on this and watching it and stuff, I was just getting really creeped out. So it wasn't until I believe 2012 when Slender Man the 8 Pages came out where I kind of picked up on it as it just being a video game, or it's just like an internet thing, probably a lot of people won't really, I don't know how to say this properly. They'd probably be laughing at the thought of me believing it's real. But it was an urban legend on the internet, and, a lot of people still believe that Bloody Mary is real, for instance. So I don't really think it's that too far-fetched to fall for it anyways. Especially, I used to watch the Marble Hornets, and that used to scare the living shit out of me. I don't really get scared easy, because most things I kind of laugh off, but I don't know, just something about the Slender Man, it kind of put me off a little bit. So today I want to talk about the story, the history, the internet fame, everything that leads up to where we are in the present time. Not going to cover everything, of course. There's quite a bit with Slender Man. We've had well over a decade with him, but we're going to go ahead and try to cover some of what I can for now. So if you enjoy our podcast, please leave a like and subscribe, and let's go ahead and start. Every generation creates its own monsters. Folk tales tell of witches and werewolves in the woods. My TV-infused generation feared Jaws in lakes and Bloody Mary in the mirror. This generation gets its monsters from the internet. That is very spot on and very fucking true. Slender Man is a pure product of electronic media. He appears in places we rarely frequent these days, abandoned. Crumbling halls, deep woods, a playground with a rickety steel jungle gym. He is a suburban ghoul with his own history and his own mythology, and of late he has become the object of controversy due to the attack in Wisconsin, during which 2 girls stabbed another in order to appease Slender Man's dark needs. It was a horrible story, and it underlies how little we understand about the psychology of a generation weaned on the internet, and how images can morph from fiction to fact in the course of half a decade. Now, I did not believe about the Slender Man stabbings whenever it first occurred. I thought it was just some more internet bullshit. But that's when the news articles started rolling in, and it turns out it was fucking true. From what I understand about it, apparently these 2 girls stabbed one of their friends to please Slender Man, he lived in a cabin a couple miles away or some shit. And the little girl got stabbed, I think, 30 times, if I remember. I haven't read this in a while. I will be going over it in this because I'm pretty sure it's going to pop up. But the little girl got stabbed, I believe, 30, maybe 40 times, and she lived. So the 2 other girls went to prison. I don't know for how long, but we will find out. So Slender Man's origin is surprisingly clear. Unlike most urban legends, we can trace his prevalence with absolute certainty. He was born on June 8th, happy birthday Slendy, 2009 on the forum site frequented by Photoshop pranksters. He belongs to a guy in Florida named Eric Kunstein? He belongs to a guy named Eric, who has a young daughter and is surprised as much as anything that his demon wasn't yet been thrown into the slap heap of forgotten memes. An entire history, an entire corpus, has grown up around him in a way that he would have imagined to be impossible just a decade ago. It is kind of funny because a lot of the creepypastas like Jake the Killer or Jack the Killer, whatever his name was, if you remember that, I haven't even thought about that one for a long time. They kind of fade off to they kind of fade away to obscurity, so you kind of just forget about them ever even existing. He is the first pure product of the internet, a demon spawned not out of specific place, but out of bits. Here's some of his story. Slender Man first appeared on the Something Awful forums under a thread titled Create Paranormal Images. One user, Slidebite, said, "You know, just a couple of the good ones are going to eventually make it into a paranormal website and be used as genuine." And man, was he right. The first image of Slender Man of a tall, out-of-focus figure next to a tree was accompanied by a bit of text that sounds like the dialogue from a badly translated horror game. One of the 2 recovered photographs of the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as the film defects by officials. Fire at the library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986 photographer Mary Thomas missing since June 13th, 1986. Other posters added their own photos of the material, created a backstory that stretched out to the 16th century Germany and even to 5000 BC. The creator, Victor Surge, added a few more photos while other visitors created their own. One particular clever image is a modified woodcut. In the original, a skeleton takes a child from its parents, perhaps into death. In the modified version, the skeleton has long arms and legs, and its misshapen skull is hidden by the eaves of the house. Over the intervening months, Something Awful posters and fan fiction enthusiasts added to the corpus. He gained a specific definition, courtesy of a poster on Yahoo Answers in 2011, 2 years after the original post. The Slender Man is a supernatural creature that is described as appearing as a normal human being, but he is described as being 8 feet tall and has vectors of extra appendages that are described as to be as sharp as swords. This creature is known to stalk humans and cause many disappearances. He is described as a shadow creature that has a missing face. The creature fits into many mythologies and legends from nations such as Germany and Celtics, which brings up the possibility that he could be real. A man named Victor Surge found this legend and made his own version of it, which we call Slender Man. The Slender Man is not exactly evil according to mythology, but Victor Surge's version shows him as an evil creature that stalks humans to kill. In mythology, he was actually trying to save you from a painful death by taking you to the underworld early. That's very interesting. So, Slender Man is a product of the century. He appears to have a havoc following. He murders in undescribable ways, or he compels others to murder for him. He's kind of like a dark god in the age of digital media, and he fills the empty place between the news and the unknown. So you're going to know a lot about Slender Man if you read up on it, or he'll eventually just kind of pop in on your timeline. It's also known that like whenever Slender Man kind of, like in any footage of him or whatever, like whenever he would pop up, it would just kind of like distort your camera. So all of your footage and everything would just be fried. It's it's very cool. Apparently Slender Man does not directly kill his victims, however. Instead, he encourages others to do it in order to please him, which would kind of go back to the 2 little girls that stabbed their friend back in 2014, I believe it was. Interestingly enough, the places he haunts are all but gone now, thanks to breathlessness news coverage of murders and mayhem. Children are rarely allowed to wander in woods alone or play in abandoned buildings. So, you know, good parenting, right? In fact, that he exists at all is a testament to the eerie pull of these places. He is the ghost in the parking lot patrolled by bored guards and CCTV cameras. He's the story that keeps you up at night in the center of a city full of 8 million people. He's not Osama bin Laden or your father's PTSD, but is instead something far easier to understand. In a world that is no longer harbored nameless dread or evil, in which every monster has a name and GPS coordinates, he is a welcome refugee into the imagination. One popular video game created around the mythos involves walking through a darkened forest surrounded by chain link fence. All you have to do is find 8 pieces of paper tacked to the nearby trees. As you find the papers, the buzzing of crickets and rustling of the trees changes to a steadily pounding noise. Slender Man is afoot. He doesn't kill you. You simply disappear in a cloud of electronic snow. If you ever played Slender Man the 8 Pages, I would recommend you to play it if you haven't, I should say. I actually own that game. For a couple of years now for my YouTube channel. I've been wanting to play it around Halloween time, but I always either forget or I kind of freak myself out. Like, I know it's not real, but it's just one of those things, like when you play a horror game with headphones on, it kind of draws you in, no matter how shitty the graphics are, and it does a pretty good job of scaring you, you know? Forums and video series were filled with fan fiction and content. The quality varies widely, but has grown oddly popular. One popular web series, Marble Hornets, if you haven't watched that YouTube channel, I highly suggest it. It's described as found footage of a man haunted by Slender Man. Most of the footage is mundane B-rolls of woods and country roads. Then every so often Slender Man appears by fuzzing out the screen or pushing one of the characters into a violent coughing fit. There are no demons screaming, gotcha. Instead you get an endless, nameless dread. It is actually pretty effective on how scary it is with such a little budget, if any budget at all. And he, you know, the funny thing is that, like, in Marble Hornets, Slender Man doesn't even pop up in every episode. He pops up in like every other one. Like in the first couple episodes, I think it was like the first 20, he's in like pretty much every one of them, but over time he kind of just disappears. And also in Marble Hornets, he doesn't really go by Slender Man. He's kind of referred to, if I remember correctly, as the Operator, which to me sounds a little bit more menacing, if that makes sense. To understand what Slender Man has become of late, all you have to do is watch a Twitter stream of mentions. In 2014, Slender Man is now Slendy, a quasi-comical, quasi-semi figure that has taken on a life of its own. The feed is full of game walkthroughs and links to creepypastas, essentially fanfiction, of course, as well as bits of dialogue that sounds like early Eminem lyrics passed through Hogwarts. There's a Twitter post here. It says, "Black is Slendy's suit. The wiki is the creepypasta's root. Cold as Jeff's knife, ending your life. Red as blood, crimson warm flood." So the name was Jeff the Killer. That's what I was referencing earlier. Slendy is a sort of goblin that posters use to scare themselves. Sadly, he's also become a focal point of madness. On May 31st, two 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin stabbed a third girl nearly to death. The girls, who called their plot Stabby Stab Stab, I'm sorry, that's a little funny, said it was intended as a sacrifice to Slender Man. Authorities are trying the pairs as adults pending a mental evaluation. The tragedy here is that the girls' lives are damaged now, even potentially ruined. Well, of course, I mean, one of them got stabbed multiple times, the other two are going to prison. So you got 3 families destroyed in this tragedy. The girls believed Slendy would appear to them if they killed in his name. They also believed he had threatened them and their families and could read their minds. Children have always found fascinating flights of imagination. These claims sound much like a Salem witch hunt of the 1690s, when young girls accused each other of riding with the devil. The resulting panics led to countless false confessions and over 20 executions. The same could potentially happen here. Then, a few days later, around the anniversary of Slender Man's creation, a teen in Cincinnati attacked her mother. The teen, I'm sorry, I could not understand how to pronounce that word. The teen, who had a history of mental illness, was obsessed with the character. The lack of detail in this and the previous case points more towards mental illness than anything else. Slender Man then became the focus of a mania that focused these girls to act out violently. Or, in my honest opinion, I believe the first one was probably, for the Slender Man, because, kids are dumb. The second one, I actually know the story. I kind of just feel like they just blamed it on Slender Man to just make the kid seem a little less crazy. If that makes sense, because it kind of comes across as crazy regardless, but, it is what it is. Thus far, no more reports of Slender Man-related violence has surfaced. Well, give it some time. The creators and main proprietors of the mythos are adamant about their disapproval. We are not teaching children to believe in a fictional monster, nor are we teaching them to be violent. I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act, said Slender Man creator Eric Knudsen. Knudsen, I can't pronounce it. I attempted to conduct him for this story, but to no avail. Where the Slenderman mythos goes from here is anyone's guess. He is a new villain, a new scapegoat, and a new demon. He won't be the last of his kind, but he is the first pure product of the internet, a digital demon that haunts websites and sometimes spills over the real world. Thankfully, no one has yet been killed in his honor. Give it some time, it will happen though. The 12-year-old Wisconsin victim is recovering and doing well. In a statement, the girl's parents wrote, "Our family would like to thank everyone who has supported our daughter in her miraculous road to recovery. Our little girl has received thousands of Purple Hearts from numerous countries and from most continents. We simply cannot put into words how grateful we are for the prayers, packages, and heartfelt messages. We are overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. They added together as a family, we continue to adjust to our new norm. Though many days consist of medical appointments and rehabilitation, recently she and her father enjoyed a daddy-daughter night at the movies and thoroughly enjoyed a Disney film. It also included, after much persistence, a stop for a much-deserved treat in the snack area. Knudsen, for his part, stopped development of the character a few years ago. I don't want to spend a lot of active time on the internet since I usually have a lot of real-life stuff going on," is what he claimed to say. Now, if you guys didn't know, in 2018 there was a live-action Slenderman movie, and let me just tell you how fucking awful this movie was. So, I was really excited for this movie whenever I first heard about it. I love Slenderman. I really wanted to see this movie more than anything, and I remember I saw it the same day as the Megalodon movie, or the Meg, because I was a fan of the Meg book series too. So growing up, I would read the Meg books. There were like 4 whenever I was in high school. So I would just read those books whenever I was in high school, and I had a great time doing that. So when I found out there was a movie, I had to go see that one first. And in the same day, I actually went and saw the Slenderman, or Slender, or I don't really remember what it was called. But I saw the Slenderman movie, and it was probably one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. Like, the acting was pretty bad, nothing really made sense. Like, apparently in the movie, the way you summon the Slenderman is through watching an online video or whatever, and then Slenderman kind of just comes and fucks with you or whatever and makes you crazy. And a way to get rid of him is you have to sacrifice something that means a lot to you, like a photograph or something your grandma knitted you or something that has like great material possession value in your heart. And the girls failed to do this, so they start going missing, or they start dying one by one. And in the middle of it, like, the main girl, she's just like, I really like this boy, so I'm gonna go hook up with this boy. And they always want to just talk to each other about this shit at nighttime for some reason. The movie was bad. Slenderman was kind of dumb. There was a few good moments in the movie, but everything else is just pretty much laughable. There's also a documentary film on the whole incident with like the girls. It's called Beware the Slenderman. So if you haven't seen that, I would suggest you watching it. It should be on HBO Films, if I remember correctly. There are other instances of Slenderman having stories like this one guy. I saw this on the internet a couple years ago, right? So this one guy was just like, oh my god, Slenderman's here, he's gonna kill me. Or he didn't say that, he said this long bastard. And the cops like arrest him. They're like doing the whole little good guy, bad guy cop thing. And they're like questioning him about like his sanity or whatever. And the guy starts pointing, screaming, it's behind you. And it's like an audio, like a found audio footage thing or whatever. There's no camera footage. But the cops turn around and start screaming, they start firing their guns, and that's like the last you hear of it. And there's like other photographs of, you'll see like Slenderman in like Renaissance paintings and shit. And he is based off of some folklore. I believe it's in Germany, from what I said, or whatever I stated earlier. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know. Like, the lore runs pretty deep at this whole thing. I would really like to play Slenderman the 8 Pages again. It's been quite a long time. I feel like it'd be really fun to play that. Maybe SPC or SCP Containment Breach. Creepypasta has always been a really special place in my heart. So, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thank you guys very much for keeping up with the podcast. And until next week, stay spoopy, my friends.